Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sakagana Raghunathan Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaidam Savadutam Parajana Sagitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So welcome to our weekly study of Bhagavad-gita. So we are actually continuing to read from the second chapter of Bhagavad-gita entitled as Sankhya Yoga. Also, Prabhupada translates as that in English as contents of Gita summarized. So this Bhagavad Gita, we all know, is the essence of all the Vedic literature. The philosophical conclusion of all the Vedic knowledge is there in Upanishads. Upanishads are considered to be the Vedanta. The Vedanta means, Veda means knowledge, Anta means end or conclusion. So the conclusion of all the Vedic study is there in Upanishads. So in the Gita Mahatmya, Shankaracharya says, Sarva Upanishad Gavo. If you consider all the Upanishads to be a cow, what is the essence of cow? Is to give milk. To get milk out of the cow, what do you need? You need two things. One is the calf and the cowherd person. So when calf goes near the cow, when calf starts drinking the milk from the cow, then cow will release the milk. When the milk is released, right, the calf drinks. After the calf drinks, the excess milk is taken by the cowherd man and given to others. So Shankaracharya compares, if you consider all the Upanishad to be a cow, and Krishna is the transcendental cowherd boy, and Arjuna is that calf, and Krishna is milking that, the Upanishad, and what comes out? Gita Amritam. So after Arjuna drinks that Gita Amritam, all the great sages and devotees are all drinking the nectarian milk of Gita Amrita. So Bhagavad-gita, right, is the essence of all the Vedic literature. All the Vedas, concludes, or the conclusion of all the Vedic knowledge is there. The philosophical conclusion of all the Vedic knowledge is there in Bhagavad-gita. So this Bhagavad-gita contains these 18 chapters, and each one of the chapter is named as yoga. And we saw the word earlier. The word yoga means the process to link. The root word of yoga comes from the word yuj. Yuj means to unite or to connect. So yoga means the process which links the individual Jivatma's consciousness with the super soul, Paramatma's consciousness. Linking means, what it means acting one in purpose. What is acting one in purpose means? Actually fulfilling the desires of the Supreme. We are all part and parcel of the eternal. We are all eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. The purpose of the part is to serve the whole. So, the constitutional position of the individual jiva is to serve the Lord with love and devotion. The intrinsic nature of the soul is to love and to be loved. Love means actually service. Love is not simply an emotion. Love is a verb. One should engage. When I say I love somebody, I will do anything and everything to please that beloved. Right? So that's why Prabhupada translates bhakti as devotional service. Bhakti is not just devotion. People can misunderstand devotion to be just a feeling. Devotional service means, that, it's not just feeling. The feeling is put into action. So this is one of the unique thing about Srila Prabhupada's translation of Bhagavad-gita. Prabhupada always translates bhakti as devotional service. It's not just sentiment. So the yoga is process which links our consciousness to God's consciousness. Whatever, level we might be at, gradually elevates our consciousness to come up to this level of loving devotion. So that's why we saw that yoga is a ladder. There are many rungs. Predominantly, right, even though there are so many different types of yogas are there, but all of them fall into only 4 categories. Karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and bhakti yoga. So all the others are nothing but subset of this 4 only. These are the 4 major categories of yogas. So these 4 yogas are nothing but different rungs in this yoga ladder to attain the topmost level. That means pure love for God. So the first stage is karma yoga. Karma yoga is one uses his body, predominantly uses his body, right? He discharges, using his body, he discharges his duty, prescribed duty in connection to God. So the next level is jnana yoga, when he uses his intelligence in the service of God, understanding the spiritual subjects. That is jnana yoga. And dhyana yoga is when he controls the mind, engages his mind on meditating on the Supreme Lord. That is dhyana yoga. When he does his mind, intelligence and body properly, then he comes to the level of bhakti yoga, yoga of the heart, yoga of the soul. So the whole Bhagavad-gita, if you read carefully, even though there are different chapters are named as yoga, ultimately all these chapters of yoga finds out into that one direction. What is that one direction? Love for the Supreme. So these 18 chapters of Bhagavad-gita, the entire essence of these 18 chapters is summarized in the 2nd chapter itself. Especially the 2nd chapter contains these 5 sections, right? Last week we concluded on section 4, Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga is nothing but working with proper knowledge. What is that knowledge? I am an eternal spirit soul. I am a part and parcel of the Supreme. The purpose of the part is to serve the whole. When I engage in the service of the Supreme without any ulterior motive, without any selfish desire for sense gratification, that is Buddhi Yoga. That Buddhi Yoga is, Prabhupada in the purport, we will read that, the 53rd verse again. Prabhupada says that Buddhi Yoga is nothing but Krishna consciousness. No, that's what we concluded last week. And Arjuna now is going to ask a question. In the next section, section 5, verse 2.54 to 72, is called Sthita Pragya, or attaining Samadhi. In that Samadhi state, one is fixed in Krishna consciousness. By working in Buddhi Yoga, one attains material detachment and he becomes equipoised, right? He becomes equipoised to all the dualities of this world. In that platform of liberation, right, he has that loving devotional service unto the Lord, that is called samadhi. So let's continue, let's start with 2.54 translate 53 translation, and then we will start reading from 54. When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. So as we saw that Vedas, pretty much, more than 90% of the Vedas deals with karma kanda. Karma kanda means, various rituals one he performs to fulfill various desires. So Krishna is telling one who is not disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, one is not anymore interested in sense gratification, right? That means he is fixed in self-realization, fixed in the trance of self-realization. What is that self-realization? Self-realization is that I am eternal spirit soul. I am part and parcel of the supreme whole. And the purpose of the part is to serve the whole. So this is called self-realization. Who I am, what my real identity is. And my real identity is, I am not this body, I am eternal spirit soul. I am eternal servant of the Supreme. I am a part and parcel of the Supreme. The purpose of the part is to serve the whole. Our nature is to love and to be loved. So next verse, 54 verse, we will start reading from 54. Arjuna uvacha sthita prajnascha ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthita dihi kim prabhasheta kim ashita vrajeta kim. Arjuna uvacha, Arjuna said, sthita prajnasya, of one who is situated in fixed Krishna consciousness. Ka, what? Bhasha, language. Samadhi stasya, of one situated in trance. Keshava, O Krishna. Sthitadihi, one fixed in Krishna consciousness. Kim, what? Prabhasheta, speaks. Kim, how? Ashita, does remain still. Vrajeta, walks. Kim, how? Translation. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? And what is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? So basically here, Arjuna is asking 4 questions. Krishna said, if you are not disturbed, one whose mind is not disturbed with the flowery language of Vedas, who is fixed in proper transcendental consciousness, that is, sthita prajna, divine consciousness. Arjuna is asking, how do we know one who attained this state? What are the symptoms? Basically, this contains 4, this verse has 4 parts. The question has 4 parts. First part, Arjuna is asking, what are the general symptoms of a person who attained this divine consciousness or samadhi? The next, he is asking, how does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? So Krishna is going to answer these 4 questions in the next set of coming verses. Let's read the purport. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. As there are symptoms for each and every man in terms of his particular situation, similarly, one who is Krishna conscious has his particular nature, talking, walking, thinking, feeling, etc. As a rich man has his symptom by which he is known as a rich man. As a diseased man has his symptom by which he is known as diseased. Or as a learned man has his symptoms. So a man is in transcendental consciousness of Krishna, has specific symptoms in various dealings. one can know his specific symptoms from Bhagavad-gita. Most important is how the man in Krishna consciousness speaks, for speech is the most important quality of any man. It is said that a fool is undiscovered as long as he does not speak. And certainly a well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks. But as soon as he speaks, he reveals himself at once. The immediate symptom of Krishna conscious man is that he speaks only of Krishna and of matters relating to him. Other symptoms then automatically follow as stated below. So here, Arjuna is asking these 4 questions. What are the general symptoms of a person who is perfectly situated in Krishna consciousness or samadhi? How does he speak? How does he sit? And how does he walk? Here, right, Prabhupada is telling speech is very important, Everybody looks very intelligent until somebody opens his mouth, right? Everybody is intelligent until he starts speaking, right? Even a fool can be well dressed and he might look like very scholarly. But the moment he starts speaking, then we know what he's made up of, right? So similarly, here speech is very important. Prabhupada is telling a person situated in Krishna consciousness, his thoughts are always fixed on Krishna. When he speaks, he talks about only Krishna and things connected to Krishna, nothing else. This is the state of a person who had attained divine consciousness or samadhi or pure love for God. So now Krishna is going to explain the general symptoms in this verse, right? I'll just open a small guidebook we have. Yeah. So this guidebook is another guidebook I have. It's available in Amazon. I got this, purchased this soft copy called, this Gita Subodhini. It's a very nice study guide for Bhagavad-gita as well, Bhagavad-gita as it is. So this also divides nicely into sections. Right, we saw that Sthita Prajna 54 to 72, the qualities of a liberated soul or person who is already, in the divine consciousness, Jivan Mukta. Arjuna's question, right? What are his general symptoms? How does he speak? What does he speak means? Here Prabhu is explaining speaking means how does he respond for the dualities of this world. When somebody praises him or blames him, when somebody gives affection or hate, when he goes through these dualities of this world, how does he respond both externally and internally, right? When we are actually affected by the dualities of this world, right? When we go through this various situations in this world, right? Happiness and suffering, heat and cold, hate and love, praise and blame, we are actually induced by this dualities. But a person who is in divine consciousness, how does he respond instead of reacting? Responding means in his intelligence internally and externally with his language and words. So that is question 2. And question 3 is, how does he sit? How does he sit means, how does he restrain his senses from the sense objects, right? We all have this 5 senses: eyes, nose, right? Ears, tongue, and skin. They are all attracted to the corresponding sense objects. Eyes always want to see nice things. Ears always want to hear nice things. Nose always want to smell nice things. And the tongue always want to taste nice things. And the skin always want to touch nice things. So the senses are always attracted towards the sense objects. When they come in contact with sense objects, right, the senses gets that gratification. So when this world offers the so-called pleasure through this material sense objects, a sthita prajna, a person who in divine consciousness, how does he respond? How does he control his senses? Because the senses, right, are dragging us in different directions. The Upanishad gives the analogy, right? If we consider the entire body to be a chariot, the five senses are considered to be the five horses. The five horses, when they drag us in five different directions, we get nowhere, we go nowhere, right? All the time our senses are dragging in different directions. But a self-realized person, he knows how to control them. The Upanishad gives the analogy. The senses are like the horses, the mind is like that, the driving instrument, the rope, and intelligence is the driver, and the soul is the passenger. If you want to attain proper destination, the mind should control the senses, the intelligence, the driver should control the senses with the help of mind. So here the question is, how does he restrain his senses from the sense objects? That's the third question. The fourth question is, how does he walk? Right? How does he walk means, how does he respond to the sense objects? When the sense objects are presented in front of him, what does he do? How does he engage his senses? Because no one can keep idle. Our senses has to be engaged. Right? No one can, we'll see later in Bhagavad-gita, right? One who thinks that he is actually situated in inaction, not doing anything, but still he is engaged in action. Right? A wise person, he sees action in inaction, and then inaction in action. Even though he might be doing so many things, but still he does not incur any karma. That is inaction in action. Action in inaction is one, he might be doing nothing, sitting idle, but still he is engaged in karma. He is incurring karmic reaction. A wise person can see action in inaction and inaction in action. In fourth chapter, we will see this more detail on this. How does he respond to the sense objects? So that is the fourth question. Now Krishna answers this question. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atman Yevatmana Tushtaha Sthita Prajnastadu Uchyate. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arises from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So Krishna is giving very clearly the definition of a person who is situated in this divine consciousness or samadhi. What is that? He does not have any material desire for sense gratification, because the sense gratification is nothing but a product of mental concoction. Right? When we see a sense object, for example, when I see a mango, right, immediately comes, right, thinking, feeling, and willing. When the eye sees that mango, it presents the data, that knowledge of presence of mango to the mind, and then mind immediately produces a desire. It goes to three stages: thinking, feeling, and willing. First, thinking means, right, if I put that mango in my mouth, that is thinking. Next is feeling, how it will taste. Oh, it will taste very nice. Once the mind thinks, what if I put that mango in my mouth? Then it goes to the feeling. wow, it will taste so good, because last time when I tasted the mango, it tasted very good. Feeling. After thinking and feeling, then comes into action, willing. Oh, now I will take that mango and put it in my mouth. Right? This is how the mind contemplates on when a sense object is presented to the sense takes that object and presents it to mind. Mind then goes through thinking, feeling, and willing, and it concocts that, oh, if I come in touch with that, if I put that mango in my mouth, if my tongue tastes that mango, it will be so good. So the whole process of sense gratification is nothing but a product of mind. Now, the question is it possible to get rid of the desire? No. The innate nature of the soul is to have desire. Desire cannot be removed. Unlike what we think, like in Buddhism, that desires cannot be, the goal of Buddhism is to remove all the layers of desire. In the end, you become nothing. No, that is not what Vedic philosophy is giving. The desires cannot be removed, but the desires can be purified. The desire of the soul, right? When it is conditioned by the mind, when our consciousness is covered, the soul is attracted to the concocted desires of the mind. The pure desires of the soul are covered. So it engages in various sense gratification. That's what Krishna is telling. When various desire for sense gratification is given up by a person, because these sense gratifications are nothing but which arises from the mental concoction, how it can be done? When the mind is completely purified. When the mind is completely purified, it does not have any desire for sense gratification. At that time, he is situated in self-satisfaction. What is it, self-satisfaction? Atma Rama. Right? Self-satisfaction means when we are completely satisfied in the soul. When the soul will be completely satisfied, when it engages in loving devotional service unto the Supreme. Krishna is telling, when that person reaches that kind of pure, loving devotional service unto the Supreme without any desire for sense gratification, which arises out of the mind, then he is considered to be in pure consciousness. Purport. Bhagavatam affirms that any person who is fully in Krishna consciousness or devotional service of the Lord has all good qualities of the great sages. Whereas a person who is not so transcendently situated has no good qualification, because he is sure to be taking refuge in his own mental concoction. Consequently, it is rightly said here and that one has to give up all kinds of sense desire manufactured by mental concoction. Artificially, such sense desires cannot be stopped. But if one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, then automatically sense desires subside without extraneous efforts. Therefore, one has to engage himself in Krishna consciousness without hesitation. For this devotional service will instantly help one onto the platform of transcendental consciousness. The highly developed soul always remains satisfied in himself by realizing himself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord. Such a transcendently situated person has no desire resulting from petty materialism. Rather, he remains always happy in his natural position of eternally serving the Supreme Lord. So this is the general symptoms of a person who is situated in divine consciousness or attained samadhi. He does not have any material desires born out of his mind, because his mind is already purified. And the mind, body and intelligence is completely purified. What is left? The pure consciousness of the soul, the pure desire of the soul. What is the pure desire of the soul? Is to serve the Supreme without any desire for sense gratification. So that is the divine consciousness. So now Krishna is going to continue answering question number 2. That is, right? How does he speak? So before that, actually, Krishna is going to define the sage of a steady mind. Right? Dukkesh anudigna manaha Shukesh vigatash Vitaraha Bayakrodaha Sthidatir Munil Uchate Dukkeshu in the threefold measure is Anudvigna Manaha, without being agitated in mind. Sukeshu, in happiness. Vegatas Praha, without being interested. Vita, free from raga, attachment, baya, fear, krodha, and anger. Sthitadihi, whose mind is steady. Munihi, a sage. Uchate is called. Translation: one who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. Purport: the word Muni means one who can agitate his mind in various ways for mental speculation without coming to a factual conclusion. Mahabharata describes the word Muni. Muni means who uses the mind in various thought process. He contemplates his mind on various things. He deliberates his mind on various things to understand the higher goal, higher knowledge. Muni means one who agitates his mind in various ways for mental speculation. He is always using his mind, thinking. Is it like this? Is it like that? Like that. Muni means who engages his mind in various thought process. Right? It is said that every Muni has a different angle of vision. And unless a Muni differs from other Munis, he cannot be called a Muni in the strict sense of the term. Right? As Mahabharata, right, gives this in Vanaparva, the definition, right? Nasho Rishir Yashya Matam Hi Binnam. Every one of the Muni has a different opinion. If he does not have different opinion than other Muni, he cannot be called as Muni. Right? But here, we are not just giving the definition of simply the word Muni. Krishna is giving Sthitadhira Muni, means the sage of steady mind. But a Sthitadhira Muni, as mentioned herein by the Lord, is different from an ordinary Muni. Sthitadhira Muni is always in Krishna consciousness, for he has exhausted all his business of creative speculation. He is called Prashanta Nihesha Mano Ratantra. This is a compilation called Stotra Ratna. Yamunacharya, one of the great devotees of the Supreme Lord. He is actually Guru of Srila Ramanujacharya. Srila Yamunacharya, he had compiled a compilation called Stotra Ratna. Stotra Ratna. Basically, Stotra Ratna is nothing but the essence of entire Gita, summarized in few shlokas again. In that he is telling Prashant Nigesha Mano Ratantra. That means, or one who has surpassed the stage of mental speculation and has come to the conclusion that Lord Shri Krishna or Vasudeva is everything. Right? We will see that in the 7th chapter, 19th verse. Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapatyate Vasu Devaga Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudarlabhaga. Right? In the 7th chapter, 19th verse, Krishna says, after many births, a person situated in knowledge comes to the conclusion. What is the conclusion? Vasudevaga Sarvamiti. He surrenders unto the Supreme Lord, understanding that everything exists because of Supreme Lord, Vasudeva. He is the Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the source of everything. Such a soul is very rare. Sa Mahatma Shudurlabhaga. Of course, we will see that in detail when we come to the 7th chapter, the 19th verse. Right? Here, he is called a Muni fixed in mind. Who is a Muni fixed in mind? Who understands that Supreme Lord is the source of everything. We are all done part and parcel of the Supreme, and he is completely absorbed his mind in the service of the Supreme Lord. He is called a Muni fixed in, a Muni who is fixed in his mind. Such a fully Krishna conscious person is not at all disturbed by the onslaught of the threefold miseries. What are the threefold miseries everyone has to go through in this world? Adhyatmika klesha. One's miseries caused by one's body and mind. Adi bhaudika klesha, miseries caused by other living entities. And Adi daivika klesha, miseries caused by natural calamities. Every one of us has to constantly go through these three types of misery. Three klesha. Right? Threefold miseries. A person who is fixed in his mind, that means one who is completely absorbed on Krishna, his mind is not disturbed by the onslaught of the threefold miseries, for he accepts all miseries as the mercy of the Lord. Right? Even after coming to this divine consciousness, still the activities in this world is not going to stop. The nature of this world is that the world will cause the three kinds of miseries. Based on what? Based on my past karma, right? This onslaught of miseries until we end this body will be revealed only. But a sage of steady mind, he does not react to those onslaughts because his mind is completely absorbed in Krishna, and his mind is not disturbed because he understands this is nothing but mercy of Krishna. The reactions I am getting is nothing but mercy of Krishna. According to my karma, I am supposed to get lot more miseries. Because I am surrendered to Krishna, Krishna is giving me a token response to my karma. This helps me to get fixed in Krishna. That's how he sees that the onslaught of miseries of this world as a mercy of the Lord, thinking himself only worthy of more trouble due to his past misdeeds. And he sees that his miseries, by the grace of the Lord, are minimized to the lowest. Similarly, when he is happy, he gives credit to the Lord, thinking himself unworthy of the happiness. He realizes that it is due only to the Lord's grace that he is in such a comfortable condition and able to render better service to the Lord. And for the service of the Lord, he is always daring and active and is not influenced by the attachment and aversion. Basically, he is not, when the mind is fixed, that means he is not affected by the dualities of this world. He is neither get attached to the temporary happiness, he neither get aversion to the so-called miseries. Neither happiness nor misery does not affect because his mind is always engaged in the service of the Lord. When the misery comes, he sees that as a mercy of the Lord. When he gets some comfortable situation, that also he gives as a mercy of the Lord. He gives the complete credit to the Lord. He takes responsibility for his past misdeed. He sees that Krishna is very kind. He reduced my karma. He is giving only a token response. He minimized my reaction. When he get comfortable situation, he gives the credit to the Lord. He had given me a comfortable situation. Let me engage in the service of the Lord. Attachment means accepting things for one's own sense gratification. Detachment is the absence of such sensual attachment. But one fixed in Krishna consciousness has neither attachment nor detachment because his life is dedicated in the service of the Lord. Consequently, he is not at all angry when even his attempts are unsuccessful. Success or no success, a Krishna conscious person is always steady in his determination. What is the determination? To engage in the loving service of the Supreme Lord. So Krishna is continuing answering that second question, Next verse, 57. Yes sarvatra nabhishnehas tatat prapya shubhashubham nabhinantanti nadveshti tasya prajna pradishtita. Yaha. One who sarvatra everywhere anabhisheneha without affection, tat, that prapya, achieving. Shubha, good, ashubham, evil. Na, ever, nandati. Prices, na, never, dveshti, envies, tasya, his, prajna, perfect knowledge, pradishta, pradisthita, fixed. Translation: in the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. So this is how he responds to the dualities of this world internally. Internally means his intelligence understands properly what is temporary, what is permanent. Right? This is internal consciousness. This is how internally he responds. He knows that everything in this world is going through because of action and reaction. I should not get agitated by this. Purport: there is always some upheaval in this material world, which may be good or evil. One who is not agitated by such material upheavals, who is unaffected by good and evil, is to be understood to be fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one is in the material world, there is always the possibility of good and evil because this world is full of duality. But one who is fixed in Krishna consciousness is not affected by the good and evil because he is simply concerned with Krishna, who is all good absolute. Such consciousness in Krishna situates one in a perfect transcendental position called technically samadhi. Next verse. Yada samharta chayam kurmo anganeva sarvashaha indriyani indriya artebhyas tasya prajna pradishtita. Yada, when samharate, winds up, cha, also I am he, kurmaga, tortoise, angani, limbs, iva, like, sarvashaga, altogether, indriyani, senses, indriya artebhyaga, from the sense objects, tasya, his, prajna, consciousness, pratishtita, fixed. Translation: one who is able to withdraw his sense from the sense object, as tortoise draws his limb within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. Purport: the test of a yogi, devotee, or self-realized soul is that he is able to control the senses according to his plan. Most people, however, are servants of the senses and are thus directed by the dictation of the senses. Right? Most people are nothing but Dasas. Person who controls his senses or engages his senses in the service of the Supreme Lord is called Goswami. The word Goswami means the master of his senses. He has control over the senses. If the senses are not controlled, we are Dasas. But when we have mastery over the senses, then we are called Goswamis. Goswami is not just, some caste name. Goswami means is a title offered to a person who has control over his senses. That is the answer to the question of how a yogi is situated. The senses are compared to the venomous serpents. They want to act very loosely and without restriction. The yogi or the devotee must be very strong to control the serpents like a snake charmer. He never allows them to act independently. There are many injunctions in the revealed scriptures. Some of them are don'ts and some of them are do's. Unless one is able to follow the do's and don'ts, restricting oneself from the sense enjoyment, it is not possible to be firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. The best example set herein is the tortoise. The tortoise can at any moment wind up its senses and exhibit them again at any time for the particular purpose. Similarly, the senses of the Krishna conscious person are used only for some particular purpose in the service of the Lord and are withdrawn otherwise. Arjuna is being taught here to use his senses for the service of the Lord instead for his own satisfaction. Keeping the senses always in the service of the Lord is the example set by the analogy of the tortoise who keeps the senses within. Right? A tortoise, if there is an external disturbance, immediately withdraws his limbs within the shell. But when the disturbance is gone, immediately he can release his limbs and then start engaging in activity, moving or walking or whatever he wants to do. Similarly, a devotee, he always engages his senses in the service of the Lord. But when he is presented an opportunity to engage his senses in the sense gratification or for his own gratification, he immediately withdraws the senses. He does not engage the sense. The example, right, is the tortoise. If a mango is given to a person, a yogi or a devotee, he controls his mind. He does not allow his mind to the thinking, feeling and willing of how the mango will taste if I put in my mouth. Instead of that, he will actually transfer that desire. Oh, it would be nice if we can offer this mango to Krishna and Krishna will enjoy this mango nicely. So when he sees anything in this world, anything which is of substance, immediately he does not contemplate his mind on his own gratification. Immediately he transfers his mind. Oh, it will be nice if I can offer this to Krishna. And Krishna's senses, he always thinks of Krishna's sense gratification instead of his own sense gratification. Of course, when he offers the mango to Krishna, what he is going to do? He is going to taste it and he is going to give it back to his devotee. He accepts as Krishna Prasad. He will actually take the mango when it is offered to Krishna. If it is not offered to Krishna, he will not see it. He will not take it. Because he takes it without offering it to Krishna, basically he is going to get engaged in karma. It may be good or bad. Both Papa and Punya, we saw that there are two sides of the same coin, which will continue to entangle us in this material world. So he transfers his desires for the gratification of Krishna's senses. That is how he engages his mind. So like the example is like the tortoise. When there is a disturbance, he withdraws his limb. When there is no disturbance, he engages his activity. Similarly, a devotee, when an opportunity is given to gratify his own senses, withdraw his limbs. But when an opportunity is given to engage in service of Krishna, he uses his limbs in serving Krishna. Right? So the mango is offered to Krishna, and then when Krishna presents this mango as prasad, he uses his tongue to taste that mango. How? He tastes his consciousness. Oh, Krishna is very kind. He had given me this mango as his mercy. Because Krishna tasted this mango is tasting very good. Even his gratification of his senses is in connection to Krishna only. So this is how he engages his senses in service of Krishna. We'll stop here. So we'll continue from next verse 59 next week. Now Krishna is going to answer the further questions in the coming verses. The remaining two questions we will see. How does he sit and how does he walk? At this time, any comments, any questions?
I have a question.
Yes,
Swamiji. Is Dhyana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are synonymous of Dvaita and Advaita, what is the major difference between the two?
So it's very good question. Thank you for that question. See, Advaita and Dvaita is philosophy. You know, every philosophy has a siddhanta or conclusion. What is the ultimate conclusion? In Advaita, it focuses on oneness. It focuses on oneness, the quality of oneness between the individual Jiva and Paramatma, the Supreme. And Dvaita focuses on the difference. There is always a difference between the Jiva and, Paramatma in terms of quantity. Advaita focuses on quality, the oneness of the quality. Dvaita focuses on the quantity, the difference. He is infinite, Vibhu. We are Anu, infinitesimal. So this is basically the difference between Advaita philosophy and Dvaita philosophy. This is philosophy, the conclusion is eternally one in consciousness, in quality. That is Advaita. Dvaita is eternally two in terms of quantity. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reconciled this two. Achintya Beda Abeda. Inconceivable, simultaneous oneness and different. In terms of quality, we are one. In quantity, we are different. Simultaneously, we are this different and one. How can be simultaneously one and different? That is inconceivable. So this is in terms of philosophy. But the yoga, right? Karma yoga, dhyana yoga, ashtanga yoga, bhakti yoga, these are all actually the process to link our consciousness. The goal in Advaita is to reach oneness. In Dvaita is to see that I am eternally servant. I am always his servant. I am different from him. I am to serve him. In reconciling this, that I am eternally one in consciousness, but in terms of my position, I am servant. So to reach this goal in Advaita is reaching oneness, that by body, mind and soul, right? Karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga and bhakti yoga. That is the process. That is yoga.
Okay.
So in Ashtanga yoga is the stage in one who purifies his mind. Bhakti yoga is when somebody is completely purified in his heart. That means mind, body and intelligence, when everything is completely purified. The pure consciousness is the consciousness of the soul or consciousness of the heart. So that is Bhakti Yoga.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Katyayani
yes,
ji?
it does. It does. Thank you. Thank you. It does.
Any other comments, questions? Yeah, we have a new participant in our study, Gopi. And Gopi, can you introduce yourself a little bit? You're on mute. Maybe you can unmute. Okay, no problem. So if any other question is not there, we'll conclude here. Thank you very much again for, joining our weekly study. So we are making, good progress. Probably in another 1 or 2 weeks, we will complete chapter 2. That is the contents of Gita summarized.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. We'll end here.